so much for taking time out of your day to have this career conversation with Raul Reyes from New Relic, who I will introduce in just a moment. First, I am Shannon Anichetti. I use she, her pronouns, and I work with Mohr Career Services, which is the office that provides career services for all business students. Mohr Career Services has a variety of ways that we're supporting business students, especially right now. We have virtual and phone appointments, virtual workshops and events like this one, recorded content online. So this is being recorded and will be shared online afterwards. Things like Handshake, VMOC, Big Interview. And if none of those sound like anything you know about, I invite you to learn more on our website. And you can visit us at business.uoregon.edu/careers. Before we get started though, just a few logistics. My colleague Amy already mentioned a few of these, but if you have any technical issues or anything, we're going to be using the chat function throughout versus muting or unmuting folks for recording purposes. So technical issues, please send a chat to Amy and she will help with those as best she can. If you do have questions for Raul throughout, please message me in the chat function and we'll address those in order. We do only have about 30 minutes to chat today, so we may not be able to get to everybody's questions, but if your question is not answered, we invite you to connect with Raul on LinkedIn and potentially continue the conversation there. So with that, we're gonna get started. Raul, would you mind taking a few minutes to just introduce yourself?
Oh, there we go. Hi, everyone. My name is Raul. As Shannon mentioned, I go by he, him pronouns. I graduated from Portland State University in 2013 with a Bachelor's of Science in Economics. Had to remember that one. Do you want me to go into the any clubs or orgs that I was a part of during? Yeah. So during my time, I went to Mount Hood Community College first, and PSU. I was involved with student government, MECHA, if you're familiar with it, and each one of those has a program called the Oregon Leadership Institute. So that's part of how I was able to pay for some of my school as well.
Awesome, thanks. So with that, we'll launch right into our first question. And if you wouldn't mind just kind of expanding a little bit on your career journey, what got you to really where you are today and maybe some pivotal experiences in that?
Yeah. So right after, so in March, April timeframe of my senior year, I just started applying for everything and anything that was available. So spray and pray approach. And eventually I was hired at a marketing automation software company doing customer support. So you're the one who handles the phones, answers a lot of those questions when you have technical issues, those types of things. And really that's how I got started. And at that point in my career, I was super green. I knew very little about, working in tech or working in corporate environments. So really that's where I learned most of the things. And that's also where I became an expert in marketing automation, or in Marketo more specifically, because I worked there and they paid for most of my training. I was being paid to learn, or that's really how I saw it. So that was really a huge, I would say a stepping stone, and really just getting into tech, getting into knowing how some of those things work. And after dealing with a lot of issues from people, dealing with my own account and growing within, I figured, hey, if all these people are making all these mistakes, maybe I can do a better job. So I went over and I became a marketing operations specialist. So pretty much doing the Marketo side as a client, as a customer. And then I made my own mistakes and I learned a ton along the way. And then from there, I got this opportunity here at New Relic. I've been here for about a year. And pretty much what I do is I manage our Marketo instance for marketing. I deal with most of our webinars, our life cycle marketing, so primarily around email, and based on where people are in the funnel. So if we think that you're a customer, we want you to onboard something else, those types of things, I work on making sure that all those things get out the door.
Awesome, thanks. And I'm curious too, I mean, I know a little bit about you because we know each other. Are there other things that, you know, have been really influential in getting you to where you are that are outside of kind of maybe the jobs that you've had? So maybe other things that you do for volunteering, or I know you also have military experience, like any of that. Can you speak to a little bit maybe how that has influenced your path?
I think attitude goes a long way. For the most part, any job that I've been a part of, no one gave me some sort of handbook, especially in tech. Nobody says, hey, this is how you do it. Let's figure it out. Some of the situations that I'm in is, hey, this is what we want to do. How do we do it? Figure it out. And spending curiosity goes a long way. Positive, just having a good attitude and being willing to learn. And to this day, I feel really lucky or privileged to be able to say, hey, I'm being paid to learn more about a certain thing, or you know, whether it be a new skill set, hard skill, soft skill, whatever. It's really, I see it just as an opportunity to learn more, and I think that goes a long way.
Nice. So then along with that, there's a lot going on in the world right now, right? New Relic is a tech company, I'm sure, working to adapt. Can you talk a little bit about maybe some trends or things that you really see impacting New Relic at this particular moment?
Yeah, I think as a digital transformation, and you know, working from home was something that hardly anybody either did or talked about. And now that everyone's moving remote, or things are going internet-based, the internet is, you know, people rely more on the internet than anything. And I won't give you a New Relic pitch, but what we do is we make sure that the software works and things are staying up. So really just a lot of the bandwidth and people figuring out that they needed to go with the internet, keep up with the times, stay alive, really at the end of the day. Our webinars and everything else just went through the roof. So online events like this one, all those other things, email fatigue is a big thing. So just adapting, you know, do we want to send 2 emails this week, or do we want to send 1 and have it be more targeted? All those things, just being willing to adapt, I think is a big one.
Nice. No, perfect. And you talked already about a few soft skills: curiosity, adaptability, problem solving. So what about the hard skills? You know, different programs, industry knowledge, systems. You know, Marketo is one that you mentioned, but can you think of specific things that have been really helpful in your career total?
Yeah, I think as far as marketing in general, I think just learning and figuring out what people are using. So a marketing automation platform software, I feel I'm biased, but I feel strongly about it. So regardless of where you are on the marketing spectrum of content writing or PR, communications, demand generation, which is what I'm a part of, just knowing or saying, hey, I've used Marketo before, or Parda, or whatever other platform goes a long way. I think also something like a content management system, you know, how are landing pages being built, and using those also go a long way. Being able to get certifications and things. Right now, there are a bunch of software companies giving free training and free certifications. I remember way back when I was first at Marketo, they paid for my Marketo expert certification. And I don't know if it's free, so don't quote me on that, but a lot of other places have that. So just a lot of those things, and especially at the beginning, just having that stamp of approval by some big something. I think Google Analytics, you know, or whatever else people are using. I'm a fan of a Chrome extension called Data Nice or Wapalizer. Maybe I can send it via the chat. And those, if you go to any URL, it shows you what technologies are using. So if you really want to get into the technology side of marketing, you can say, hey, if I'm interviewing company A, you can say, hey, I see you're using Adobe Experience Manager to build your landing pages. You're using this and that. And they'll be like, whoa, that's already a step ahead of other people. And also you can nerd out and say, hey, how did they make the thing, work or whatever. But oh, there it is. Thanks, Amy. Yeah. So those are some of the very hard skills that the interviews that I've been a part of, it really goes a long way when someone says, hey, I've used it before, or I'm familiar with it.
Nice. So then how would you say somebody who didn't know how to use any of those would get experience? Like, what tips do you have for learning those?
I think some of them have free accounts, so that's helpful. The other piece is just YouTube or the internet, if without being too specific. Also connecting with people. I was just on LinkedIn a few minutes ago and I saw someone saying, hey, is anybody open? I have some time for some simple part-up tasks that you can help with, and just getting in the door and getting that exposure. But most of these places have free trials, free versions of something, so that really helps out.
Nice, awesome. So we're going to kind of move on to a little bit of advice giving. I mean, you've been giving a ton of advice, but maybe more specifically, what specific things come to mind when you're thinking about things students could be doing right now to prepare for a career in marketing or demand marketing, as you said? What comes to mind?
Well, I think coming to things like this is already a huge step. I really was just blind, just walking around and hoping something hit. The timing had something to do as well. But anyway, so going back to the advice piece, I think looking for internships, figuring out how you can get experience, figuring out what you don't like. I think also, because sometimes you don't know what you like, but if you know specifically what you don't want to do, then that also is helpful in finding the internships that you want to do. If you're not a writer and that is not something that you want to do, I think it's easier to say, okay, I'm going to look for marketing internships that are not writing marketing internships. Or I don't care so much about the technology, I care about the strategy or whatever else. That goes a long way. Let's see, let me see if I have any notes. Sharpening, something that I am working on is my presentation skills and just building slides. Over the past couple of years, you present to other people, to your boss, to other teams, and that's something that I'm not great at. So just being a good presenter, being able to visualize what you're trying to portray also is helpful. I'll stop saying goes a long way. But also, let's see, networking. Networking is something that that I think is underrated or is talked about quite a bit, but we don't take seriously. Or, when I was being told, hey, be sure to network, it's going to help, I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. But the last 2 jobs that I've gotten have been through networks. Somebody saying, hey, there's a job open here, are you interested? And then me going through and just having a connection somewhere really, really helps. And I will say I'm a first generation college graduate. So I knew nobody, I was just kind of flying blind, but once you start making friends and you make connections, people who you look up to, finding mentors, or just, being curious is helpful.
Yeah, and what I appreciate about your reframe of networking is it's really about a relationship. It's not, sometimes has this connotation that we think about in a big event and you give a business card or something, and that can be really intimidating. And you're right, it's really about a relationship, mentorship, learning, really mutually beneficial in that way. And you even talked about, LinkedIn, is there a project I can work with and help? So I'm curious, what strategies did you find most useful when you got started networking as a college student?
I think also just being mindful of people's time and understanding. Some people might just not be as, you know, if you say, hey, can I grab some coffee? If it's out of the way for them, or especially now, you probably don't want to do that as openly. But just figuring out if people want to. And most people that I've reached out to say yes, absolutely. Or figuring out, finding communities also, where, you know, I'm a person of color, so there's a community of us out there who are talking about, you know, compensation, or who has done this, I don't know, you know, during your reviews, you know, what are some things that you've talked about? And people are more than willing to share. And this is a good example of, you know, you reached out to me and I was like, yeah, I'll talk to people about my experience. But people are more open than you think. But just be mindful and be thoughtful in how you reach out. If you say, hey, will you be my mentor? That doesn't, you know, probably is too straightforward. But also thinking about, you know, hey, I've read your things of your writing stuff, or I saw that you're interested in this. And, you know, having the same alma mater, or having some other type of connection also helps. And that, you know, or being colleagues in other places.
Nice. Yeah. So there's, you know, LinkedIn is one way, but there are a lot of other ways too. And I like that you mentioned finding community, like wherever that is for you, whatever, however you find that support. And in college, like there's a lot of opportunities. I think you and I can probably relate to that. Like, right, in college, there are maybe opportunities that you might not think of outside of college. And so I think taking advantage of that as well is a great tip. Okay, so kind of on that, thinking back to being in college, is there something you wish you had known when you were a student that would have maybe helped you that you haven't already shared? You've already shared a lot, but is there anything else that's coming to mind that you wish you had known?
Let's see. I think I'm looking back at my notes. I already shared some of that stuff. I think just knowing that most likely, you know, the first job that you get is probably in that industry. Figure out if that's also something that you're interested in. So, you know, if you start working in healthcare as an example, and that's kind of where you go, how easily would it be to go from healthcare to construction or IT, or, you know, something else? With marketing, it's a little bit easier, I think, because you can be part of a marketing team, and that's more easily transferable than let's say you're doing something else like, I don't know, engineering. So figuring out, maybe does the industry, you know, does that entice you? Is that something that you're interested in? And also just going out there and applying for things. You know, if you're interested, apply, ask, just be out there. It's probably a good problem to have if you're at a point where, you know, you're having to choose between 2 internships or 2 jobs, rather than just kind of scrambling or you know, not planning. So that the planning also goes a long way. Which for so New Relic has a really good internship program, and we had an intern who we just finished working with because she went back to school. And she worked throughout the summer, but the applications opened pretty early on. I think ours opened in September, October timeframe, and we have a ton every year. So just planning for those types of things. Full transparency, I didn't plan that well, hence the scrambling during my senior year. I'll take whatever comes my way. But if you're in a better position to do that, you'll be way ahead of many people.
And we did not prep him to say that, I promise. But as career professionals, we love hearing that, because you're right. It is, you know, there's a lot going on when you're a student for sure, but we also know students are going to college for a reason. I went to college for a reason, and that's a career. And so the more that we can think about that and really utilize resources on campus while you have them. That's great. Something that you had said too really you know, I think was important in thinking about internships and the power that they have in helping you kind of determine what either industry or function, like that idea of, is it an industry I want to work at? And there may be different things I could do in tech or different things I could do in healthcare, or is it the function, which is marketing? Is that what I want to do? And I could do that in like any company, because most companies need marketing or most companies need human resources. So how would you say you decided that? Like I mean, you've been in some tech companies for a while doing marketing things. Are both of those important to you? Is it more marketing that's important to you? What do you think?
I think that, so earlier on, I was a math major, and that became sort of a, you can do everything, but also you could possibly do nothing because it's so flexible. So then I went with economics, and at the end, I didn't really know what I was doing with my life. But I found more of the tinkering or the problem solving is really something that I'm interested in. So with that, you know, going the technical support route and being able to do that, also not having a good combination of the technical tinkering and the problem solving, but also the creativity of, you know, we could run a different campaign, and we have some really cool marketing campaigns right now for what we're doing, like on Reddit, or, you know, all those more creative things. So maybe finding a balance, and also figuring out, having a good relationship with your manager or whoever, you know, is mentoring you and saying, hey, this is what I think I want to do. Can you give me more exposure to that? So something that I've been trying to do is maybe manage people. Do I want to do that? Is that something that I think I want to do? And I've gone back and forth as to, yes, I absolutely want to be a people manager, or, you know what, I think I want to do my own thing and take care of it. And part of that, and having that good communication with your manager, is also having a taste for it. So our intern this summer, we worked really closely, and we did a lot of, you know, I did a lot of managerial type things, but when it came to, it's like having a niece or a nephew, or, you know, someone who just had a baby. You get a bunch of experience, but then you hand it back to mom and dad, or to the parents. A similar experience, and you're like, oh yes, absolutely. Or, oh man, that was a lot of work. I don't know if that's for me. It goes back to the same thing with industry versus role. You can dip your toes in and figure out if you like it.
And things are going to change over time. You're going to try something and be like, nope, that's not it, and pivot. And there's never really a right path. So you mentioned internships, and that the internship program at New Relic is going to be opening somewhat soon. And we have a question about New Relic. So, you know, can you talk a little bit more about New Relic, kind of what you would say that the pitch is for what New Relic does?
Yeah, so New Relic really created the application performance monitoring industry a few years ago, about 10 years ago. And really from there, we've continued to evolve. The internet continues to become more complex. And along with that, the engineers and everyone working on the back end need a way of keeping things afloat and making sure that things you know, work seamlessly. And you can do that whether by being an engineer or being in marketing like I am. But just working at New Relic in general, is the culture is really part of the reason why I'm there. We have a great culture. We have different groups. We have employee resource groups. We have women at New Relic. So if you identify that way, we have relics who served, also for veterans or people in the military. We have relics of color. We have new relics for mental health in a bunch of different groups. So from a culture perspective, New Relic is a great place to be, but also from a development perspective, we're continually growing, we're always hiring. So just having the opportunity to do different things or figure out the things that you want to do, those are things that I think that make me excited to be here and continue going. The people who I work with are amazing. and even with all the things that have happened in the world, just also having flexibility and knowing that, you know, the work that you're doing means something, whether it be at the company level, around the world, all of that at least makes me feel good and makes me recommend it.
Nice, awesome. So what would you say then an average day for you at New Relic looks like?
If you would have asked me that last week, no, we just launched a new product, or we did a huge launch earlier at the end of July. So days were crazy with a lot of things happening. But my day really is more around planning or executing on our marketing campaigns. So whether that be for our users, for people, for prospects, customers. Today, we hosted a webinar earlier today that ended at noon, hence me being late to our dry run. So all of those things. So executing on a lot of things. So we have a ticket system. So people send me a bunch of requests and managing the execution of those, the timing, and also doing some things around, yeah, so it's a bunch of it, doing things, and some of it planning and figuring out strategy, working with other teams in other departments to get something out the door. Hopefully that wasn't too vague as to a typical day.
I'm sure it just shows that what is a typical day, because there's probably new things you're working on every day and kind of pivoting, and particularly now having to do a lot of pivoting as well. So we're gonna kind of wrap it up with one final question. And I know you've talked a lot about kind of recommendations for students and next steps for students, but to summarize it, is there like one either recommendation or action that you have for a student who's still in college right now thinking about their career?
I would say apply for internships. That really, you can study all day, every day, or you could learn a thing on how it works. But until you're out there in the field doing it and it breaks on you and you have to, you know, come up with a solution, that really, real world experience, I guess, is what I would say. Whether that be a job or an internship or whatever, figure out, you know, get to doing the thing. Yeah.
Ah, get the experience in addition to the school. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Raul, for taking time to be with us. I really appreciate it. Any last minute things that you wanted to share with the audience?
Thanks, everyone. I just wanted to say, I'd love it if we can connect on LinkedIn. I share resources there every now and then. When our internship opens up, I'll be sharing it there as well. And just if you want to connect, I think that would be great, or any follow-up questions or anything like that. Shannon's got my contact info too.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Raul, for joining us again. And thank you, everybody, for popping on and taking 30 minutes of your day to chat with us. We hope to see you at other events and that you have a great day. And you got some claps. So there you go.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.